Hi, my name is Hananya.
Hello there, my name is Shameem.
And my name is Leslie. We're three international friends on a mission to write and publish our first novels. We are the Three Writing Amigas.
Hello.
We're just talking about the sanctity of books. Like, I can't throw one away. So I give it away, or there's this great, actually this really great used bookstore in town. And they're fabulous. And you can get books from like $1 to $5. I think like that's the most expensive. And a lot of them are even new because there are people who buy books immediately and then read them and then don't know what to do with it. So,
Well, I watched a really not very good film the other day, but what was good is that the main character was walking down the road and then there was this little shaped house on a stilt and there was used books in there, and she went in and put her used book in there and took another one out, and and I was just like, oh my god, that's so brilliant.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like we have one about 4 or 5 blocks away, and it's just, I don't know who puts them up, and they're there and there are books inside, and that's what it's kind of for. You're supposed to go there, see if you like a book, and then trade it with another book, and it's just kind of like a neighborhood thing. It's kind of cool. I haven't looked in there, but I used to have, oh my god, books, like, oh my god. When we moved out here, we said, okay, look, we cannot pack and ship all these books. So we really, really went through and culled through and got it down to the books, the art books you're never going to get rid of, the reference books, the this and that, whatever. And so we only moved out here with 23 boxes of books.
Only.
That is horrendous.
Isn't that crazy? And, and I think about that, and I think about how many books we have on our Kindle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we hardly buy physical books anymore, and yet we had 23 boxes to ship out here. Oh, it's a crazy town. It's hard to, I don't know. Like, I would live in a book if I could live in a book.
I have the same. I have so many like Dutch books up here, like on top of my cabinet, and I'm not gonna read them, but I have them.
But you have them, yeah.
And like my grandma keeps giving me more books that she's read so that I can read them, and I'm like, I'm probably not gonna read them, but I'll put them on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
Are you not going to read them because they're in Dutch?
Yeah.
And that's harder?
Mm-hmm.
I just find it, and I'm sorry, this is not fair, and I hope I'm not rude. I just find it so fascinating.
It is. It is fascinating. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's so, because our minds, our brains are just, we just don't know much about it. So to be dyslexic in one language, your native language, but to have less issues in a foreign language, when I know friends who are not dyslexic and what it went through, what it was like for them to have to learn English, especially because English is really hard. Shameem and I are super lucky we didn't have to learn it because it's a hard
Dutch is
language.
Harder, trust me.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
I have a lot of like English friends or English speaking friends that are trying to learn Dutch, and they're like, there are so many random words that you guys throw in your sentences that don't make sense.
Oh wow.
Like there's no rules to it. We just kind of do it. And it's just like an extra word here and there that makes the sentence like make sense for us, but it doesn't make sense for foreigners at all. They're like, why did you put this word in? We're like, it's just there. And we don't really have like a clear distinction between male and female words. Like we have, basically you have the as like the table.
Yeah.
And everything is the, and we have two. Like we have different ones.
But they're both neutral. Like in French, it would be a feminine and female, le and la, right?
Yeah, here it's just gut. It's gut feeling.
Gut feeling. Okay.
Yeah. Like we know because we've been raised that way.
Right.
But for foreigners, it's difficult to kind of decide, but like when is it this and when is it that? So yeah. It's a difficult language.
You kind of don't have male and female in English. It's just what it is.
Yeah, mostly we do not. Sometimes, but it doesn't come in the article, right? So there's no le and la. It would be like actor, actress, which we don't say actress anymore so much. We just say actor. But so it's in the noun rather than in the article, which is sort of funny. But like the British, who, in my mind, don't speak English very well.
What? They bloody invented it and you lot bastardized it.
I said that on purpose and it worked. No, but you say, I'm going to go hospital. Like, you don't use the article, the. You have to go to the hospital. Like, I'm
going to go to a hospital. Yeah,
I'm going to go
it
to
works
hospital.
both ways.
You think so?
Yeah, it's both. It's
or
both.
he's in hospital.
Yeah.
Right? You don't, you drop it. I find that odd.
But I think how you speak in English is not how you write.
Yeah.
No, well, no. But that's also because, and first of all, I speak American English, right? And you speak British English, and Hananya speaks
American
second language English. Yeah. Well, we already know that we think that you're actually American.
I know.
And that you're tricking us. But the style in which you write depends on, the book you want to write, right? So, like my book, I don't speak like this at all, but somehow, and I think it was because of a couple of books that I don't know this, but the couple of books that I read that I just really liked the style of them. I liked the feeling they gave me. And so I wanted to not copy it because they're very different. And I actually can read you a passage, but I just, like I said, I really like the style of it. And so that was something that I wanted to somehow infuse into the story because I thought it would help. Plus, for me, my story, which takes place during the Great Depression in the United States, the early 1930s, I'm thinking 31, 32, in a rural town, it was appropriate, right? You don't want to have them speaking like, using idioms from today. That wouldn't be it, right? So you have to really think about that. Do you want me to read you an example? Because I was just looking again. So one of your two books that really kind of influenced me in terms of the style that I wanted to kind of infuse into the book as I take it into actually the world of the 1930s. And one of them, and they're both, it's funny, I think they're both, I'm not sure if that one's middle grade. This one is, this one's definitely middle grade. That's the book. It's called 3 Times Lucky. It's by Sheila Turnage. And it's a trilogy, but I just really related to this little 6th grader. So like, for instance, the first part, so let's see, start with, I guess, attitude. So like how she kind of gets to sort of the attitude of her character, right? How she kind of writes that. So I'll just read you this little bit, and then I have a little bit from my book, and you tell me if you think that it feels, kind of that way. So she says, okay, wait, I gotta find it. Okay, so this is about a little girl who lives with, she was abandoned, and she lives with 2 adults that are not her parents, obviously, she was abandoned, and they run this little cafe. And so she said, and Miss Lana is kind of like her mother figure. So Miss Lana says, the good thing about living in a small town is everybody knows your business and they pitch in. The Colonel, who's kind of like her father, says the bad thing about living in a small town is everybody knows your business and they pitch in. Cuts both ways. Yes, ma'am, I said, Anna Celeste's party is Saturday, but I don't need a ride. No, ma'am, it's because Anna Celeste is my sworn enemy for life, and I'd rather go face down in a plate of raw chicken entrails than go to her party. Plus, I'm not invited. Yes, ma'am, I'll tell the Colonel you called. Goodbye. And I just love, like, it says so much about the character and her attitude, and she like uses a metaphor, and it's kind of folksy. And so this is something that I chose, if I can get it up here, that I feel is, I hope I've kind of figured, I hope I've created that same kind of feeling, is I guess what I'm trying to get. Okay, so this is my thing. It's a little longer, sorry. So my main character and her younger sister are walking home from school after getting kicked out. That day, I spotted Mr. Coolidge sitting in his usual spot out front of the market by the fan he hooked up with 2 extension cords. He was leaning back in his chair with his feet propped up on the soda cooler. I could see the holes in the bottoms of his shoes as we got closer. His hat was pulled down over his eyes, but I could feel him watching us. "Where are y'all going?" Mr. Coolidge said, smooth and slow like a sloth with a southern drawl. He was from Mississippi, came up our way to find work years ago. He'd found Mrs. Coolidge instead. "We're going home, Dot. We're going home. Dot don't feel so good, Mr. C." "Looks more like y'all been fighting again to me." Mr. Coolidge sat up in his chair and pushed his hat back, looking at us through bloodshot eyes. He leaned forward, inspecting us. He took his time, looking me in the eye. "Uh-huh. Y'all been fighting, all right. Your mama won't take to that lying, Missy ma'am. No, she won't." He stared at us long and hard. I finally dropped my head to make him stop. "I'm sorry, Mr. C. Really I am," I said, with my fingers firmly crossed behind my back. I wasn't sorry one bit that I'd beaten up Mabel May for picking on Dot or for lying about it neither.
I like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I feel that I hope, that I've achieved that same kind of light, right? You feel the atmosphere, you feel the characters, and you get her attitude, like she lies to this guy. She's like, "Yeah, I'll just say whatever I have to say to like let me pass," right? So that's one of the things that I'm hoping that I can weave through this book to give you a sense of the time, the kind of words he uses, Missy ma'am, right?
Yeah, I love all that.
Yeah.
It's authentic, isn't it? It's really authentic.
Yeah.
It's, and it's, like I said before, it's not the story of my family, but I think that some of like that term, Missy ma'am, that's something my grandmother used to say, right?
Yeah.
So that came back to me at that, like, that's the kind of thing that you would say to a precocious little kid, right? Because it's like, "I got your number," I would say today, right? But back then. So it's that kind of stuff. The other thing I really like about this book and I feel and hope that, I'm again going to be able to emulate in some way, is how conversational it feels. Like the conversation comes more easily to me in writing than description does.
Same.
Right?
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Oh, that's so good. That's interesting. And I like books that have more dialogue than just description. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I get bored if people are talking about the walls and the details and the blah blah blah. I can feel myself starting to switch off. I'm just like, I want to move forward. And I think dialogue is really good for moving the story forward.
Yeah. I sometimes am like, just like, okay, what's the point of describing every single brick in this wall? Like, just get past it. I don't need to know exactly where the stain was. Just say there was a stain on the wall. Don't be like, there was a stain on the 4th stone from the left, but like the 5th stone from the bottom. And it's like, I'm like, I don't need to know that. Just tell me there was a stain. Period. Move on.
And only describe those things that are really
necessary.
Are necessary. Thank you. Not everything, right?
Yeah.
So
this is what we learn in film school as well. If you show something on screen, it has to be like relevant.
Yes.
So if you see something, you always know that it will come back at the end somewhere. That's right. Otherwise, why show it?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And it's just like, and film experience, it's like my TV experience is so good for novel writing for that reason. But yeah, so it drives me insane. So there's description in my book, don't get me wrong, but it's like, there aren't passages and passages of that. Okay. Shameem, how is your voice?
I'm laughing because I was like sitting there thinking, I hope Hananya's next.
I mean, this is our conversation. We can we want, but
yeah,
I'm just saying.
So, well, my book that I'm writing, this style, it's more about, similar to yours, in having an authentic voice. So my protagonist is Welsh from Wales. A very so there's the tone. What do I want to say? I've shown 2 people one chapter, and when they read it, they say they can hear my voice. So I think
Okay.
that is a kind of a good thing, because I want it to have a really Welsh tone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dark subject matter, but I also like stories that are told almost matter of fact, and a little bit dark and funny as well,
Mhm.
because the subject is so dark. So I pulled out my favorite book, which is The Martian.
Oh, I never
Okay.
read. I saw the movie. I hate to say
Well,
but can I ask you a question before you go on? Or
Yeah.
maybe it'll become clear when you read this. What do you mean by a Welsh tone? Like, what does that mean to you?
So everybody in my story is Welsh.
Mhm.
So I'm writing it in a Welsh accent, if that makes sense. So I've got a glossary at the front, because lots of Welshisms that nobody's gonna. So, a lot of people are gonna be wondering, oh my God, what does that mean?
Right.
But there's lots of slang, lots of not proper English. Let's say it's a very working class story. The people are working class. The community is working class.
Okay.
There's quite a lot of profanity, a lot of swearing,
Mhm.
because I swear a lot. So,
Do you? So you clean up your language for us so we can understand you? Is that what you're saying?
well, no, I can turn it off. But I think it's a hangover. I'm gonna no, that's just a blatant lie. I swore before I joined the army. The army just sort of
Magnified it.
So yeah, it made my vocabulary really bad. But
Did it really?
yeah, and then you'll tell when I read you. I just read you the first couple of sentences of this book, which is kind of what my book's like. Yeah, so I love this book. You said you watched it at the cinema, so I read the book. Read the book, went to the cinema, and I was just like, oh my God, the film is just so nowhere near as good as the book.
I gotta read the book then, because I love the film, not having read the book. So
yeah, so I was disappointed. I can't remember who I went with. They loved it because they didn't read a book. So sometimes now I'm going as far as, if I think I'm gonna like it, and I know there's a film coming out, I won't read the book because it'll spoil the film. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
yeah, well, because when you adapt, I mean, that's part of it's very difficult.
It
When
is.
when you read, of course, when you write a book, you got all this internal stuff, and you can write it as long as you want in the way. I mean, there are some parameters, but you get to put in all this detail and stuff. In a film, whether it's television or a movie, the information has to be stripped down because it goes by you like this, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So your audience has to be able to follow along. So if you're going and then going in someone's head, it's like your audience can't follow. So it's very difficult to adapt a book and have the people who read the book be happy.
Mhm.
I completely agree, but I don't think I've ever watched a film where I thought the film is better than the book. Oh, actually, I lie. The Green Mile came really close.
Oh, I read the book, did not see the film.
I've only seen the film. I've not read the book.
So I've done both.
I love the books.
I remember watching the book, and the film hit me emotionally, just like the book did.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So that it's a really long film though, so I think that helps because it told.
You tried to get it all in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway, I like complex stories. I like really vocal, loud, strong protagonists. So I'll just read a few sentences of this. The Martian by Andy Weir. And you can tell it's really old, and you can see it's yellowy now.
Mm.
I think I've lent it to a few people, but I've asked them to give it back to me because
I love books like that, the ones you don't want to let go of.
No. So log entry Sol 6. I'm pretty much fucked. That's my considered opinion. Fucked. 6 days into what should have been the greatest 2 months of my life, and it's turned into a nightmare.
What I was gonna say, that goes right to his character immediately by saying, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Even that, right? Because it tells you he swears, he's like to the point.
Yeah.
And he's in danger. Like, where is that? Is that like the beginning of the book? Where does
that's the first 3 sentences.
Oh my God.
I love that.
Yeah.
We're gonna do first pages on another episode.
This sets like the tone for the book.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Wow. And he thinks he's gonna die because he says something about.
So
wow, that's really impactful.
I know, and in the book there's a ton of I want to say scientific detail. Now, I'm not a big science buff. I'm not into physics, chemistry, but I love sci-fi and I love time travel and all that kind of thing. But the writer, Andy Weir, makes a complicated subject accessible even to people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love as well about the fact that it's, you know, it's set on Mars. It's all, you know, all about how he's trying to survive. Lots of, you know, new words to read, but it's just told in such a way that just makes it super engaging. And I read it really quickly. I love reading a book where I know I got to get up early in the morning, but I stay up later than I should because I just want to carry on reading. That's when I know it's a good story.
Yeah, or when you're like out for the day, but you're like, I can't wait to get back to that book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I get annoyed, like a friend or my sister will call me and I'm like, oh no,
I just want to read. Go away.
Yeah.
I'm on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So how do you think that's relating to the book that you're writing, your story?
So a lot of the dialogue, I think, my book's in third person, not first person. I did the opposite of you. I switched from first to third. And a lot of the dialogue is very, you know, nobody is sugarcoating anything. It's very in your face dialogue, I guess, where no one is softening. You know that phrase where you have to kind of like soften your words to get your message across, make sure it lands. So mine is kind of unapologetically unfiltered, let's say, in terms of who the character, I think, isn't particularly, it's not soft, warm and cuddly. She's more like quite hard exterior, but soft on the inside, but portrays, you know, a lot of, can be classified as angry, aggressive, but really it's just a facade. And she uses language or banned language, you know, and lots of like aggressive rebuttals to project, you know, attention away from herself and the shitty situation she's in, really.
Yeah.
So I think things like that.
Oh, very interesting. And that's appropriate to, and I'm asking as to like that time period and people from in the book.
So similar to your story, mine's set in the 80s. And I know we've spoken about this. So there's a lot of like phrases, what's the word? Idioms. That's it, idioms. I'm making sure that I'm not introducing, you know, phrases, sayings, words that just weren't used in the late 1980s.
Modern language, you
know, there's no internet, there's no mobile phones. You know, if you wanted to contact somebody, you phoned their house. 9 out of 10 times there was not even an answer phone, it just rang. You didn't know anyone called, you didn't know that there was no such thing as a missed call, you know, things like that.
Right.
Using the phone box to put money in, reversing the charges because you haven't got enough money to pay for the phone call, things like that. Just making sure that it's staying like authentically true to the time. So a lot of it as well is about permed hair, big hair, back combed and hairsprayed. So it's quite flamboyant. Well, it's weirdly flamboyant, but in a working class environment where nobody had much money. So yeah, so
that's interesting. That's what makes it interesting and authentic and allows the reader to go into another world, right? It's those little details, being careful about that. You know, that does the trick, right?
Yeah, most of the story centers around the kitchen, which is the hub. You know, the mother the mother is the matriarch. Everyone comes in for advice or to share their problems. So there's lots of eating and smoking because everyone smoked as well in the late 1980s. And lots of weird stuff like, you know, no one's really religious, but they, you know, make cakes for Father Joseph for the fete and stuff like that. But it's, so it is like kind of a Welsh working town, working class kind of culture set in, you know, it's quite political as well because of the time. It was just after the miners' strike. Margaret Thatcher came into power. Everyone hated Margaret Thatcher, that kind of thing. So.
Does that play in a role in the story?
Yeah, the strike does. Margaret Thatcher does, because a lot of my story focuses on the women, and from and the protagonist's mother was didn't follow the gang, let's say, in striking because she couldn't afford to, because she had 3 kids that she had to bring up, so she needed money. And all her friends had, you know, mothers and fathers to help bring the money in. So yeah.
I can't wait till you start reading us some.
Yes, I haven't got really any direct comparisons, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, but
yeah.
I see based on what you said how The Martian influenced or is the kind of style that you want to your book to convey. No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, you know. I just one quick question before Hananya gets to tell us hers. Is the book funny like the movie was? To me, I found The Martian kind of hilarious.
Yes, the book is funnier because I think
I have to read it.
I think it's more. I think I love dry sarcasm, but you know, as you see in the film, he gets into some pretty hairy circumstances.
Yeah.
But the layers that is added in by Andy Weir's writing is just off the charts. It's just phenomenal. I remember I was so obsessed with it when it was first published. I don't know if you know the story, but how, I don't know if this is true, but anyway, he started promoting his book he published a chapter online when it wasn't, you know, when all of this wasn't a thing back then. I was just trying to see if it's a year on these.
Yeah, the publisher page.
Yeah, I don't know, can't see. But anyway, it got a lot of attention from it to his website. And I think he published something else on his website as well. So I think he was one of the first to do things like that.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Okay.
Huh.
It's not there anymore because obviously he's loaded now and he's got an agent,
he's
got a publisher. So that's taken out. But I remember reading it back in the day. So
interesting. That's quite
you should read the book.
So Hananya.
Hi.
Hananya is the only one of us doing fantasy. It's funny that the two of us are kind of really in this real world, and then Hananya is not. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, more or less.
Well, because look, last time when we were talking, you made this comment, and I thought that was really interesting. That it's what did you say? You said it was a different timeline.
Yeah, just alternate universe.
Yeah, alternate universe. I love that. Just the thought of that's cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. How is that?
This is the only one that I have in a different time period, like the novel I'm writing.
Oh, really?
All my other ones are basically contemporary.
Really?
Oh, okay. I don't think I registered that. I thought you were.
Somehow I felt. I don't.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought a lot of it was, you know,
historical.
Yeah, I don't
know
really.
Why.
Well, that makes more sense. Also, why you're
struggling
challenged a bit. Challenged because you know it. First of all, look, even when someone's done a lot of research and stuff, it's not necessarily
it's difficult.
Easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And time consuming, and you go down the rabbit holes and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
but I do feel like a lot better about it.
Oh, good.
So
good.
I'm okay with it. But I do have some examples if you guys want me to read stuff. But
no, I just wanted to ask you a question on your novel.
Yeah.
Because it's set, you know, in another universe, hundreds of years in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean you have to write a lot of description when you're writing that kind of genre, or does the same philosophy apply where the reader can use their imagination about the world? And you're providing, you know, very layered dialogue to express.
I think it's a combination. So I feel like I'm not great at description. So that's something that I kind of am paying attention to when I'm reading and like how people describe things. So I can start applying that to my own stories a little bit better. And that is also the examples I have a little bit.
Okay.
But I feel like I don't do it enough. Like my description isn't there as much. Like I very much so, as you guys also said, dialogue comes very easily to me. So I can write a full chapter, just dialogue, and then be like, right, I should probably add some description somewhere of like, oh yeah, okay, they walked, or like they were in this room or something. Like I have to add something. It can't just be dialogue all the way. So that's usually what I add later. Like I'll do all the dialogue first if I'm like in the flow of a conversation.
Yeah.
I do that first, and then I'll go back and like try and add like little things of like how they breathe it or the way they move their hands or like stuff like that. So I'm kind of more focusing, I guess, on like body language. So yeah.
Read your examples. I'm
We
excited.
learned. Well, I've like this is one of the books that I've read recently, which is The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. And this is book 1 of the series. But this is basically a book that I've just read, so that's why I kind of grabbed it, because I really like the description part that he did. I have 2 things like highlighted, but I can't find the other one, but I'll grab this one. I just kind of randomly turned to a page and then thought this will probably work. So this was kind of like description wise what I hope I will achieve at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me try and not freak out with my dyslexia. Okay.
You're fine. You're amongst friends.
I know. The weather was fair and cold. The sky was clear day and night. There was no prospect of rain. Further out in the Atlantic than Further out in the Atlantic than they could perceive, there might have been all sorts of bad weather. There might have been the mother of all depressions, and it might have been heading towards Britain to bring about just a sort of inundation. I don't even know how to pronounce that word. That Cornfantassel had predicted to Malcolm, but there were no instruments that could see it, except perhaps an alethiometer. So that's kind of like description wise what I enjoy, kind of like the, I don't know, the flow of it, or like,
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of lyrical.
yeah. And that's kind of what I like. And I feel like that's what I want to include in my story at some point. So that's a little bit of an example of the book.
That description kind of helps to create the atmosphere, doesn't it? Of the
It does.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So like I
a
did
rhythm to the language, and there's a,
Right.
You
Yeah.
feel it, and it's the length of certain words, but also word choice, obviously, but getting it to where you hear that music in your own ear, I think you have to try different things. I thought that was a lovely passage.
Mm-hmm. I have this is apparently something that I've rewritten because it's in a different color. I don't remember this. This is kind of also the person I am. I don't remember writing my own things all the time. So
Like so
then you can
much.
read with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
It's because
I forget everything.
It's your
That's who I am.
superpower ability to
Yeah.
write like a machine.
But this is also like why I can rewatch movies, because I'll just forget. And you can tell me a spoiler and I'll forget it by the time I watch or read something. Like,
Really?
There's
Yeah.
value in that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna read this. I have no idea where this is going.
Okay.
There were noises coming from below, causing me to glance over the edge into the spacious main hall. The torchlight didn't quite illuminate all of it, but enough to show me what had caused the disturbance of the otherwise peaceful room.
Oh, I like that.
So that is something that I've edited.
Yeah.
But so like before I didn't have this at all. But
Right.
this is kind of what I've added now. Probably a couple months back.
But it's
yeah.
it has a bit of that lyricism
Right.
to it,
Yeah.
It's a shorter description. So,
Yeah.
but it has, in that short description, it has that kind of lyricism. I think you are going in the direction that you want to go, that what you like. Yeah, I can hear it.
So that's kind of
I liked it. And that's from the novel.
that's a novel, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I can also try and read something from my short story if you guys want to. Let me see
Yes,
if I can grab
do
that
it.
one.
Yes.
Let me try and find a good one. I feel like this is more like less description. This is very much so like it just keeps on going. Okay, here we go. As the kitchen comes into view, I see the damage. The asshole is lying face down on the kitchen floor, a pool of blood slowly expanding as it continues to ooze out of him. That's a lot of blood. The urge to close my eyes and look away takes hold of me. I take a deep breath to steady myself.
Yeah,
I like that. I love the you have a rhythm. You have a rhythm to your writing, which is really, I don't want to say it feels pleasant, but it feels, I feel the,
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
love that. The
So-
asshole before.
Yeah.
I know. I like it.
Great. It's kind of
As soon
potty
as
mouth, though.
Shameem was like, I like the kind of file,
Yeah.
file, like Yeah, I was like, she's gonna love my short story.
Yeah, because I do. I don't like. I just read this awful book where the two characters I thought were so weak and pathetic.
Yeah.
I read the whole story because it tied into some content I wanted for my book.
Right.
Oh my God, I cannot get that time back. It's all right.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah. I can't, especially women. I cannot handle a weak female protagonist. Like,
Not me. I just want to somehow grab hold of her, give her a good shake, and stop letting us down. You know what we've had to go through to get here today.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like you guys are going to be so disappointed by the ending of my novel.
No, stop.
No, because it's different. Because in that era that you're writing, I fully understand, you know, the way it was a very patriarchal system run by, you know, men. It's not that different, really.
It's really not. Unfortunately.
But the consequences were grave back in the day, you know, hundreds of years back in the day versus what they are today.
Yeah.
Half the reason that I'm a gobshite is because I don't have the consequences that my grandmother did, as an example. So I'm
a gobshite.
Yeah, see, that's
I was not going to let that go. What the heck does that mean?
Gobshite,
free, please.
Like you know, vocal and unapologetically unfiltered.
I love it.
But I say that I am filtered. I can tell you that I am.
Of course, you know, you have to be filtered, like in your business life.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is, of course, we don't know anything about your novel. I mean, we don't know about your novel and how it ends, and we do know it's about a princess who doesn't want to be married off, and maybe it turns out that happens. But victory comes in many different ways. So I know, and you know, that back in the day that hundreds of years ago, but also even today, but certainly back in my time period, you know, women were so much not in control of their own lives. But that didn't mean they didn't have victories, and they didn't manipulate things and figure out power plays and things like that, you know, behind the scenes while I'll tell you this is very funny. So when I got married to my current husband, it was the night before, you know, all the girlfriends take you out and blah, blah, blah. And so we're sitting around, we're all having drinks. And I don't remember who said it, but said, okay, everybody give Leslie one like a piece of advice. And it's, you know, I was an adult and this was my second marriage. They knew that, but we're just having fun. The one piece of advice that stuck with me, because I don't remember what anybody else said, okay? But this one friend of mine says, her name's Claudia. She says, when you're, you know, you and your husband and you're talking and there's something, you know, whatever that needs to happen or whatever, just say yes and then do whatever the hell you want. That's what she told me.
Yeah.
I still remember that.
I love that.
But there was a lot of that, right? That's what would have to happen because as a woman, you needed to survive, right? So it doesn't mean that it's, you know, a failure. So I'm saying this knowing having no idea how your story ends.
I'm not gonna spoil it either.
Don't spoil it. It was just based on you're saying we would, after we were like, oh, we are women, you were saying we were going to be just.
Yeah, but I just want to add though that I don't like a very neat, tied up ending either. I love a messy ending. I was watching a program with my husband the other day, and the ending, like, it was almost like they didn't show you the ending. And my husband was like, well, that's crap. And I said, no, because in my head, I know what happened. And I said, I think that's really smart and clever. They're letting us, you know, whatever the ending is up to us. And I quite liked it.
And I also like, you know, especially in novels, I like it when you walk away from a book and you're still thinking, oh, so then I wonder if this happened after, like there's an afterlife in your mind. I guess that was partially what you were saying, you know what I mean? Rather than, and then they
lived happily ever after. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be disaster, but it's just that there's a life after the story ends, right?
Yeah. And I want people to like keep thinking about it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So,
but that was really interesting, Hananya, and I have to say, both of them are very have piqued my interest.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And you know, I just realized another bonus of our group is that we're each going to have 3 extra books to read, and they're going to be free.
Yes,
Yes.
they are.
I'll make sure to buy it anyway once it's out. You gotta
yeah.
support your friends.
You got to support your friends. But I want signed
Copies.
Signed copy. Wait, Hananya froze.
Did I?
Not you. Sorry, not Hananya.
Oh,
Shameem froze.
Shameem froze.
Oh, there you're back. You're back.
That's
Could you
funny.
hear us?
Yeah,
Or-
I thought you two froze.
That's fine.
But we want signed copies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some very extravagant, like, mentions.
Exactly.
Acknowledgements. Yeah, for sure.
Definite. Okay. I
Yeah.
like that.
I'm
So,
in the
on that-
acknowledgement of this one right here.
Oh, are you?
Mhm.
Cool. I'm in the acknowledgement of one book, but it was for a documentary, and then they wrote a book and they acknowledged us.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not in any acknowledgements, but I know now that I'm going to be.
But you will be now.
You will be.
Yes, you know that too. You will be. Exactly. I could do with some coffee. What about you guys?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
that sounds very, very good right now.
Coffee, please.
Copy time.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Be sure to follow Hananya at Hananya LeClaire on Instagram and YouTube. Follow Shameem on Instagram at rnpinkhamauthor. And Leslie on Instagram at ld.feral.writer. Or catch all of us on YouTube at 3 Writing Amigas. Until our next hangout, keep on writing.